Hello, welcome back to the Coleman channel, and welcome back to another installment of Kllection. Wowee. Yeah, it's Kllection. We look at things, creative media things that I own in my purview of weird things. Really struggle to get the words out there. So yeah, what have we covered so far? Comic books, movie tickets we've also done, some vinyl records that I own, and some video game paraphernalia. I was going to do video games, but I don't really feel like talking about video games right now. And I actually wanted to go back to some comic books that I own, particularly comic book volumes, so big collections of multiple stories, essentially, or just big graphic novel comics. I don't know, what's the difference between a graphic novel and a comic? I guess a comic book's a, you know, the single issue. I guess I would call a graphic novel a hardback big boy, essentially. So I've got a few graphic novels, and I've got a few volumes that I'm going to show you today. I don't know, it's very hard to understand how it all gets broke up. Like, there's such a thing called an omnibus as well, an omnibus, which is like a big fat fucking hardback book that contains like every single issue, every story of a certain a comic book run or something like that. I don't have one of those. I wish I did, but I don't quite know where they all fit in. But I'm assuming these are all volumes. I think they are. Anyway, I've just picked out a random few that I thought would be quite interesting to talk about. Some that are maybe a bit not different or weird, or, you know, just interesting ones I have things to talk about or things to say about is essentially it. Because again, like my comics, this is not extensive. This is not all of them. This is just a slice, a few. But without further ado, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to dig one out and show you it. I think this is like essential reading if you're a fan of this particular thing. I mean, we all know what the hell that is. Wow, this is totally crazy. I can't believe it. Yeah, it's Batman the Killing Joke Deluxe Edition by everyone's favourite comic book madman, Alan Moore, who did The Watchmen and V for Vendetta as well as a few others. I think he did some Swamp Thing for a while, and of course, probably one of his most best known stories, Batman the Killing Joke, illustrated by Brian Bolland. Of course, some of the best of the best of the best right here, ladies and gentlemen. This came out in 1988 even. And I mean, like, yeah, what can you say about it other than the fact that this is probably one of the most essential books that you should read if you're a fan of Batman? I think a lot of people basically say that this is one of like the top 3 most essential Batman stories. I think the other two would probably be Year One and Batman The Dark Knight Returns. Personally, yeah, I own all 3 of those. I don't have them in here. I just wanted to dig at this one because The Killing Joke is probably my favourite because it's a Joker-centric story and it's one of Joker's most well-known, famous stories, and it's one of like the first examples of this Bronze Age, Modern Age era of Joker kind of transitioning from, you know, crime lord to goofy prankster to like homicidal sadist maniac, which is like, you know, I think the most traditional depiction of Joker in media now, whether it's like the Arkham game series or recent stories. In films, of course, is kind of the sadistic, real psychopath. And this is like one of the first, I would say, one of the first examples of that happening. Kind of, I don't know if this came out during the same time as like Jason Todd getting killed off by Joker for the first time. I don't know if that's from the same era, the 80s. I think it might be. So it's kind of, yeah, it kind of tells you it's from that kind of era, and this is like probably most well known. Of course, you got that legendary, iconic comic book cover of the Joker saying "Smile" with his little camera. And remember, Jared Leto tried to do that because he thought it was cool, but he's actually shit. Opinions. If you've not read The Killing Joke, I don't want to tell you anything about it because, you know, again, it's just one of the most iconic stories in Batman's history and indeed the Joker's history. Not to mention Brian Bolland's art kicks fucking ass. I should say, however, oh, that's probably going to get me, that's going to get me taken off of YouTube, man. Yeah, this is the deluxe edition, as it says. So this is a newer reprint of the classic stories. You could probably tell it's got the more recent DC Comics logo on it. Is that the most recent one? Have they changed it again since? They did, didn't they? Oh well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, this is the deluxe edition, and this is actually the one I don't like as much, because the original version of the Killing Joke that came out, I just fucking, the art in this just gives me good feelings inside, baby. I just fucking love it. But yeah, the art in this is supposed to be a bit more raw and realistic. But specifically, the colour palette is very realistic and very cold temperature and very raw and all this kind of stuff. But this is the deluxe version, like I said, but the original version is actually much brighter, is much more warmer, and it's just way more crazy wackadoo, kind of very bright, bombastic colours. The most iconic image from this is probably the scene where the Joker is sitting upon a big pile of, what is it, like dolls or some shit? I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it in time while I'm telling you this. Yeah, this particular image here is just very, you know, simple and, well, not simple, but the colour palette is very raw and shut up. The colour is very raw and, you know, cold temperature and stuff, but the original version of the story is much more brighter, much more bombastic, much more warmer looking in tone, and I actually prefer it. But you know, them's the breaks. Actually, Brian Bollard himself says that the colour palette in this story in the deluxe version is actually much more closer to what he envisioned, which is like fair enough, you know, that's what the artist wanted in the first place, but I actually just kind of prefer the original very colourful version. I think it matches the story much more because it's a very crazy tale. But yes, if you've not read The Killing Joke, you simply must. It's kind of required of you because it actually contains a lot of classic elements of the Joker that still retain to this day, such as him shooting Barbara Gordon through the spine and her being stuck in a wheelchair. This happened here, and it's pretty much been one of the most consistent stories for Barbara. You know, the origin story of the Joker being the Red Hood, falling into the vat, man, it all comes from this, and you gotta read it. The Killing Joke, it's a certified Hood classic, and it's been a classic for so many years for a reason. Alan Moore is just one of the greatest comic writers of all time. Come on, he did The Watchmen, for the love of God. And also, one other thing that I'll show you before I shut up about this is, obviously, as you can tell, this is just a sleeve. This particular cover, this is obviously the classic cover from the original story. But you can take the sleeve off, and underneath it may be very hard to see because it's just all black. But there's another version of this where it's like got purple highlights. But this one is just all kind of matte black. As you can see, hopefully you can see that. I'll try and hold underneath it. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. The cover is literally just the last panel, or one of the last panels, of Batman and the Joker having a fucking laugh together as the police are pulling up, and it's left ambiguous as whether Batman is choking him to death there or he's just having a goof. I prefer to think he's having a goof, because it's obviously the story's like their symbiotic relationships are one of the first examples of that, really, and I think that's a good example where they share a bit of a laugh together at the end, and it says Batman the Killing Joke at the bottom. It looks fucking hot. And at the back here, it's just a little playing card where the Joker's in the top and Batman's in the bottom. But yeah, that's Batman the Killing Joke, the deluxe edition graphic novel, with an introduction by Tim Sale, who's the big classic comic book dude. And it's got a little quote from Tim Burton in the front. Obviously, he made the original Batman film in '89, and etc. Here's one from a bit more recent times. This isn't like a certified Hood classic or anything, but it's a very interesting... It's just a very interesting thing that they did. And I'll just show you it and you'll find out for yourself. This is the full collection. This is the volume for Deadpool's Secret Wars. Yeah, this is the logo from the original Secret Wars run in the 80s by Jim Shooter, the one that established the Beyonder and Battle World and all that kind of stuff. You know, just the classic Secret Wars we all know, Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. I did a little video from my Create Tidbits shorts on it. But yes, if you can see the top there, that's the more recent logo from the 2015 Secret Wars run, where they reset the Marvel Universe and they created Battle World and Doctor Doom became God, and Battle World was just a big fucking hodgepodge of different Marvel Universes, like Marvel Zombies 2099, etc, etc, etc. But this was a story that they did that was completely separate from the Secret Wars run, the 2015 Secret Wars run. And yeah, Deadpool Secret Wars, pretty funny stuff. This is actually it's pretty silly, really. So this entire volume contains the four issues that they did for Deadpool's Secret Wars, as well as the first issue for Marvel's Superhero Secret Wars, the original Jim Shooter version from '84. But yeah, this is kind of silly. Basically, what this is it's not based on the 2015 Secret Wars. It's the original '84 Jim Shooter Secret Wars, and Deadpool was there effectively. If you've never read the first Secret Wars, I think you should. I think it's a really cool story. With some really great art. It's obviously got some pretty kooky 80s comic book writing in it, but I think it's really good still. But it's got characters like the Avengers, the Wasp, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Hulk, etc. The Fantastic Four are there, the X-Men are there, the Wrecking Crew are there for some fuck all reason. The Absorbing Man, just characters I guess maybe were more prominent back in the day, but they're all here. Heroes versus villains fighting each other, you probably know that much. It's basically the exact same thing, except apparently Deadpool was there the whole time, and because of some bullshit, he actually plays a very vital role in the story of Secret Wars, and then everyone forgets that he was even there. It's pretty silly. It's just everyone's favourite thing of Deadpool, everyone's favourite character of Deadpool, getting inserted into a story and being wackadoo and crazy. Yes, this is written by a guy called Cullen Bunn. I'm not too sure who he did Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. That's a classic right there. He did the more sweet one of the recent stories a couple of years back, Absolute Carnage. He did Star Wars Darth Maul, apparently. He's been about Godzilla vs. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Good fucking god, this guy just done all things, apparently. But yeah, this is one of the ones he did. Also did Deadpool Kills Deadpool. Well, there you go. He's a very prominent Deadpool writer, and he did Deadpool Secret Wars. I guess that's why he brought him on, because it's a big event thing. Tony Harris is the guy that did the cover art. That's probably one of my favourite things of the whole run, is that the covers are actually really cool. There's number 3 there, if you can kind of make that out. You maybe see what's going on in the 3rd issue there. Yes, apparently, according to this, Spider-Man didn't wear the symbiote suit first. Deadpool did. It's just fucking dumb. It's very silly. It's just Deadpool being Deadpool and inserting himself into everything. I don't mind Deadpool too much. I think he's kind of run his course as of recently. I think the whole LOL random chimichanga humor's kind of that era, like very, I don't know. It doesn't fit very well these days. I used to like I wasn't like a mad fan of Deadpool. I used to like Deadpool well enough. I like Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, but I don't know. I'm not too sure. But there he is in the 80s with his, I don't know what they're supposed to be, kind of just more casual trousers. He's got like a Daredevil logo on his chest, except it says DP. I don't know why they did that. But yeah, the whole idea is maybe Secret Wars. That's the first panel where everyone introduced themselves in a very strange way. And then Deadpool's there too. No one knows who he is or why he's there. It's very funny. But yeah, it's quite interesting. It's pretty much the same. It's effectively the same kind of thing. There's a lot of action and fighting, and all the characters are with their classic 80s get-ups, and the dialogue remains mostly the same as well, except also in all the parts where Deadpool self-inserts himself. I forgot Kang the Conqueror's in this. What the fuck? That's crazy. And there's funny moments like Absorbing Man absorbs Deadpool for his powers, and then he just gets his fucking horrifying skin cancer. That's always funny. He meets Death in this as well and gets a little kiss. I guess that's supposed to explain where he falls in love with him for the first time, because Death starts to kind of make an appearance. Like Infinity War kind of came out around the same time as Secret Wars and shit. So it all makes sense in that way. Deadpool becomes handsome Deadpool, there he is. Deadpool's the one that falls in love with the alien lady who lives in Battleworld that Human Torch falls in love with in the comic. Yeah, he gets the symbiote suit, all that fucking inane nonsense. I will say, however, Deadpool's symbiote suit kinda is fire, I must say. I can't shake two shits at that. Deadpool is basically like the hero of the whole story, and he saves everybody and just makes the whole thing come true. And then he has to do some sacrificial nonsense where he gets forgotten. And apparently he saves Jari, that's her name, Jari, which is fucking great. It's just like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Deadpool was just here the whole time. I mean, it's a funny enough little thing. I don't know if it's supposed to be canon or not. I hope not, to be honest. I don't think it is, to be honest. Let's be fucking real. But it's just a daft little funny thing where, you know, Deadpool is what if it's like a what if Deadpool was in Secret Wars is essentially what this is. And I copped it. I didn't want to get all the comics at the time, or I think I couldn't. Like, I was collecting Secret Wars I was grinding on Secret Wars when it was dropping in 2015. Like, the majority of my pile of comics there is Secret Wars comics, and I didn't get Secret Wars when it was coming out, but I picked up the volume because, as you can see, it's only a tenner. Well, actually, it's a tenner in Forbidden Planet. I bought Forbidden Planet, which is like the big comic chain here, I guess, in the UK. I don't know if it's in the US, but it's maybe like $12.99. So I kind of got a bit of a steal. I got £2 off this sucker, considering it's like 4 issues and, you know, a little bonus Secret Wars issue in there as well. Yeah, he got mind wiped and everyone forgot who he was. You know, what a tragedy. Deadpool, the funny, crazy character, is also secretly deeply tragic. Yeah, we all fucking know that story. Deadpool Secret Wars, it's okay. I don't think it's a necessary read, but if you like Deadpool a lot and Secret Wars a lot, you might as well give it a little shifty, as we say. I'm gonna show you. This is fucking okay. So I didn't really start collecting comics until like way later, until like probably my teenage years. I think the first comic I bought for myself was probably a Marvel Zombies comic, not a comic issue, but like a volume, when I was like probably like 14, 15, something like that. But you know, I liked Spider-Man and stuff when I was a young kid. Obviously, the Sam Raimi films coming out when I was a young pup, and this was bought for me by probably my parents anyway. And this was like the first comic volume I ever owned. I don't know if it's the first comic I ever owned. I don't know, because around this time I definitely owned an X-Men comic. I think it was during the Civil War run. I can't remember what exactly it was about. I think it was the X-Men. I think it was about when the X-Men were like in another planet and it was prophesized that Colossus were going to destroy it, and then the 4 robot android cyborg thing that Reed created was trying to kill everybody. I don't fucking know. It's the official comic book adaptation of Spider-Man 2. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Isn't that just really weird? Isn't that just really bizarre? Enter the octopus, it says. That's a really stupid thing. There's Alfred Molina. Oh my god, it's Alfred Molina. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it says exactly what it is in the tin. It's the cover for, well, it's the poster, I suppose you would call it, for Spider-Man 2. And it's the official comic book adaptation. They did a movie adaptation of the comic book character, and then they did a comic book adaptation of the comic book movie adaptation. And here it is. But like I said, it is a volume, so you may be asking yourself, what the frick does this mean and why? Well, as you may know, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, I think this is like kind of considered to be everyone's favourite Sam Raimi Spider-Man film. I think that's fair. I think it probably is. You know, I'm a massive fan of Willem Dafoe, but yeah, I think 2 is just definitely the most solid in terms of like the story and the characterization of Spider-Man and, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's definitely better than 3. I'm not a massive fan of 3, to be quite honest, but yeah, I don't know if they did an adaptation for the other films. I don't know if this is a thing that goes on often, but yeah, it's just the same thing. It's the film, it's Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire and all that kind of stuff, adapted into a comic book, which is very strange. Apparently it's written by a guy called Roberto Aguirre Sacasa. I don't know if no, apparently not. Based on a motion picture screenplay by Alvin Sargent. There you go. I don't know how accurately this follows Spider-Man 2. I've not watched Spider-Man 2 in a little while. But you know, you can kind of see some elements there. Obviously there's a scene where Alfred Molina's showing off his tentacles, and you know, he's being funded by Oscorp and all that kind of stuff, and then it all goes crazy wrong and all falls apart. But yeah, it's got some different stuff here. Like this is a really cool scene actually, where it's like, no, this can't be happening to me, and then all the tentacles are like saying yes, because the idea is like the tentacles have like taken over his brain, and they've like, yeah, it's really cool. One of the best scenes, this one makes Spider-Man 2 so great. This scene where he wakes up and the tentacles just murder everybody in the surgery room, the operating theatre, whatever you call it. That scene is intense. Like, genuinely, it's got some great. It's like classic Sam Raimi, freaky moments. It's a really great scene. One of the best scenes I think in all of the trilogy, I think, actually. Yeah, there's a classic scene there. It's up in the crotch a little sometimes. But yeah, it's pretty neat. You know, the comic book art is pretty cool. You know, nothing to make fun of or just give or bully. It's just cool. It's just, you know, an interesting retelling of the film as a comic, which makes sense, I guess. It's quite short, you know. They've condensed it quite well. And I actually read it quite often, so it's like the first time I ever like probably read a comic before. But you know, quite interesting, I must say. And as you can probably see, this is a volume, so this isn't just the official comic book adaptation of Spider-Man 2. No siree. There's actually 3 other comics in here, and they're all issues relating to how the story for, you know, he got his ass there, baby, for the story of this film, because obviously this takes from a lot of different stories in the comics, and particularly this has Amazing Spider-Man issue 50, which is probably one of the most classic stories of the 1960s. Yeah, 1967. This is when like Stan Lee, John Romita, come on bro, we're all working on this. Spider-Man No More, it's like just one of the most classics in terms of the art. That cover just slaps like fuck. It's just an amazing story to this day. It's also just a classic story of Spider-Man giving up on being Spider-Man. And of course, one of the just some phenomenal art that gets seen and used time and time and time again in the Marvel world because it's good. Yeah, Spider-Man No More, it's just a classic single issue story where he gives up being Spider-Man and then he has to learn responsibility of being Spider-Man all over again, because he reflects on Uncle Ben and stuff like that, and he realizes, oh, I can't give up on being Spider-Man because it's more than just being a dude and trying to get his life back. It's actually realizing he has a bigger responsibility. Even no matter how much suffering it causes him, he has a responsibility of protecting the innocent like he failed to do before, and therefore he has to be Spider-Man. And it's a really great story. It's a classic, good stuff. And this also contains Ultimate Spider-Man issues 14 and 15 specifically. Now, I'm not a massive fan of the Ultimate Spider-Man series, like particularly when it was Peter Parker. Obviously became, I think, more iconic when Miles Morales pulled up, but believe it or not, if you're not familiar, Peter Parker was in Ultimate Spider-Man before Miles pulled up. And yeah, I guess this is, I mean, the Ultimate Marvel comics started coming out in about 2000, I think, when the new millennium hit. So I don't know if these came out around the same time as Spider-Man 2, but basically I think they put this in here because it's the origin story of Doc Ock in the Ultimate comics, and obviously relates to Spider-Man 2, so I guess it makes sense that he's here. Yeah, and also there's a lot of scenes, yeah, that the hospital murder scene is in this too. As you can see, like, the art style's okay, it's okay there, but you know, like Pierre, it's a little bit too anime looking, a little bit too, I don't know, just something about it just rubs me the wrong way. I'm just not a massive fan. Some bits are nice, like I say. The panel where we see Doc Ock for the first time is really cool looking, I think, but I just like how the dudes look. I don't like how the people look. They're just way too shiny and friendly looking and anime looking, and it's not a style that I particularly enjoy. And then yeah, Gwen Stacy's just like a emo chick who just says, you know, who knows everything about everything. Yeah, it's just, no, I'm not particularly a massive fan, really. But, you know, Ultimate Spider-Man has some good stories, you know, I'm not going to deny that. I just, again, the art style just not one I particularly fuck with. And I even thought that when I was a kid and I didn't really know much about comic art. It's something that just always rubbed me the wrong way. But that fucking shot's cool as well. I guess it's just to show you, like, the inspirations that came into making the film from Spider-Man No More, which is a big part of Spider-Man 2. He gives up being Spider-Man, obviously, and the origins of Doc Ock, and I guess the hospital scene particularly, which is quite interesting. And the look as well, obviously you got the classic trench coat, which is a big part of Ultimate Ock. And that's about it. Other than that, it's just got like a bit of lore on Doc Ock himself, and you know, his abilities, his name, Otto Octavius and stuff. And And yeah, I mean, I do love Doc Ock. I think Dr. Octopus is probably, if we're not counting Green Goblin, I think Spider-Man's most notorious, like, arch enemy. Like, for fuck's sake, Doc Ock became Spider-Man at one point. Like, there's no much more arch nemesis than that, to be honest, because you match him in, like, intelligence and stuff. So yeah, cool guy. I love Dr. Octopus. Just an interesting little thing, that, innit? You know, Spider-Man 2, the official comic adaptation. I don't freaking know. Yeah, most of these are Marvel. Again, I apologise. I've just, you know, I've said this already in the first comic video. I am a Marvel fanboy. That's just the way it is. But I do, you know, I had the killing joke there. Anyway, this is Marvel Zombies Dead Days. Oh, baby, would you freaking believe it? Yeah, Marvel Zombies, you probably know what it is. It's kind of, you know, it's a thing now. It was in the What If anthology series, and it's been about for years and years and years. I think they started in about 2004, something like that. You know what? I mean, you can kind of tell what it is. It's the Marvel Universe, except everyone's a fucking zombie. It was written by, believe it or not, as you can probably see there, Robert Kirkman, who you would probably know as the writer of the Walking Dead series of comic books, which later became the show and all that kind of stuff. I never read the comics. I didn't like the fact that it was always black and white. I would have read them if they were in colour. I think they're re-releasing them in colour. I might read them now. I don't know. The show was pretty good though for a while. But yeah, Marvel Zombies is probably one of my favourite stories that they ever told, to be honest, because it's just so fucking cool. The fact that they're the heroes but they retain their humanity, but they're still flesh-eating cannibal undead people, is such a fucking cool idea. And I love the art style as well. I can't remember the guy's name, something Phillips anyway. Yeah, Sean Phillips. I just think his art kicks ass. It's just got this really great, you know, it's all the classic like 80s kind of costumes and stuff. I just like that whole fucking panel there of all these crazy ass obscure dudes, like fucking US agents there. Speedballs in there, 3D man, you know, Black Knight, Hercules. They're not all obscure, but you know, they're just Scarlet Spider, just interesting choices there. But yeah, that's the great. It's just the art just kicks ass, and one of my favorite things about the entire thing is the way they've done the zombies themselves, because they're always slightly obscured. You don't get to see a lot of detail. You see their fucked up face and their teeth and stuff, but they're always like blacked out, which is really, it's just such a nice touch, and it's just a great design, and I just love the art very, very much. I think they fell off after Marvel Zombies 2 when Sean Phillips stopped doing the art. I think like Marvel Zombies 3 and 4, good stories, you know, like Machine Man and all that kind of stuff, but the art style wasn't hitting as much. It was beautiful, a nice panel art there. I can't remember the fucking artist's name. Something's Sudyam, I think it is. He did all the cover art for the first two iterations of Marvel Zombies as well as Dead Days. And Dead Days, if you don't know, is the prequel story to the Marvel Zombie story, how everyone became zombified and how the virus spread. I think it was because of the Sentry fell out of space and just fucking started infecting everybody. But yeah, it's great. I think it's probably one of my favourite I think it may be my favourite story in the Marvel Zombies art, because I love witnessing it all fall apart. I just love to see, it's just bright. It's so fucked up. It's just beautiful. Spider-Man is just gone insane and with distress and distraught and what he's become, and then Nova is just like, oh god no, and he's being told to kill him. He can't kill him, you know. It's just all falling apart, and you can see that happening, and it's just this idea. Kirkman just done a beautiful job of this one, having these classic 80s characters like being ripped out of that kind of happy or go lucky kind of 80s Silver Age comic environment with just death and despair and creatures everywhere and Baron Zemo. It's just a great story. I just love Dead Days. Dead Days is just so fucking cool. But not only have we got Dead Days in this, which is the one written by Robert Kirkman, because Marvel Zombies just didn't appear out of nowhere. It actually came from, we're going back to Ultimate Comics, believe it or not. This actually originated with Ultimate Fantastic Four, issue 21. I don't know where this comes into it compared to Ultimate Spider-Man. I think maybe a bit later on from Spider-Man. The art style is, I actually prefer the art style considerably. Yeah, you can see the Avengers in that are here. Sorry, the Ultimates are here. The art style is a bit better, a bit too realistic for my liking. You know, it's almost like a bit of an Alex Ross kind of vibe, but I prefer Alex Ross's art, to be honest. But yeah, actually in the Fantastic Four Ultimate Fantastic Four, this is establishing Marvel Zombies, because basically Reed Richards gets duped by another Reed Richards from another universe, and it turns out he's been brought to the Zombies verse, and everything's terrible, and all the superheroes are the classic dudes, and they're eating everybody, and everyone's dead, and you know, all this stuff, etc, etc. Magneto's there, and it's a really good story. And the Zombie Fantastic Four come into the Ultimate Universe, and they act all crazy, and he's a nutter, and it's really, really cool, and it's just brilliant. That kind of stuff's really nice. I like the art there. Very handsome Human Torch as well. That kind of art's cool. I like that kind of stuff. It looks really nice. So this happened, and then I don't know what made it so that they decided to do a Marvel Zombies separate thing, but the Dead Days prequel is basically before the Ultimate Fantastic Four stuff happens, right? Everyone gets infected, blah blah blah, and then Reed Richards decides he's going to steal that teleporter, universal teleporter bullshit, and find another world, and happens to be the Ultimate Fantastic Four universe. Yes, Marvel Zombies Dead Days got a bunch more Marvel Zombies through there. I want to bring this one through because it's got a bit more going on with it in terms of Dead Days and such. Yeah, check it out if you like. You just read Marvel Zombies if you haven't, bruh. What if you haven't? What is wrong with you? Read the first one. Read Marvel Zombies 1 and 2 and Dead Days, and even the Ultimate FF stories that lead up to this. Read 3. 3's pretty good, and then I would stop after that. Age of Ultron versus Marvel Zombies, like the Secret War stuff's good too. Anyway, I digress. Dead Days, it's really, really good. Beautiful art, beautiful story writing. We'll wrap it with one more because I'm kind of becoming increasingly more alarmed by how long this has been going on for. This is actually something completely different. Yeah, this is done by Dark Horse Comics, who you might know for Hellboy and Sin City and all that kind of stuff. They're pretty cool. This is actually released on the 20th anniversary of Dark Horse Comics. And this thing is just fucking rad, man. I found this in an antique store in Paisley, where I live. This is Harlan Ellison's Dream Corridor. It's good. Harlan Ellison, if you don't know who Harlan Ellison is, he is probably one of the greatest fantasy writers of all fucking time. He sadly passed away a couple of years ago now. I can't remember when. I think about 5 years ago. And he's one of my favourites. I only discovered him about probably like probably the year before he fucking died, like 2 years before he died. I discovered him. He wrote stuff like I Have No Mouth or I'm a Scream, Repent, Harlequin Said the TikTok Man, The Pain God. You know, he just writes really crazy, insane, speculative fiction, and sci-fi and fantasy writer. He's just a fucking great guy. He's a very turbulent man. He's insane, very combative, but a great storyteller and a fantastic man who cares about the work and cares about the writers, and that is something I wholeheartedly agree with. He also did a lot of stuff for he wrote a lot of stuff for like films and shows like Star Trek and stuff. He wrote City on the Edge of Tomorrow. Anyway, so what this is Dream Corridor, as I just said. Actually, the cover art was done by Brian Bolland, the guy who did the Killing Joke, which I just showed. And this is really, really, really cool because it is essentially, this is actually the first version of Dream Corridor. He did a second one after this. That's the one I actually want, but I've not got that one. Oh wait, no, it's the final volume, right? Okay, I'm getting confused. I apologise. I don't know how many of these they did, but this is the final one that they did. I don't know if they did 3 or 2 or whatever. But this may be the third and final or the second and final. I don't know. But the point is, Dream Corridor is essentially a collection of Harlan Ellison's fictional works and writings that he's done over like the years. We've been writing since like the 50s, and yeah, they've just been adapted into comic books. It's really, really cool. Each have been done by a different writer and a different illustrator, so they've all got different art styles and such, and each one is opened up by Harlan Ellison himself, who obviously has written his little, just a bunch of fucking shit, as he's known to do, as he was known to do in real life, just speak a lot, and it's just really cool. It's got a bunch of stories like this one here, the Silver Corridor, which is probably one of my favourite ones. I can't even begin to describe that to you. You just need to read these, really. But yeah, I'm just going to leaf through them and just tell you some of the stories that have been adapted and just some of the crazy ass art as well, just to give you an idea. Like, look at that, bruh. Isn't that just insane? These dudes are having like a mind fight or something, and this is like how they're battling each other by taking over the world, by establishing the dominance of their brains or something. It's just totally fucking crazy. Opposites Attract. This one's quite interesting. It's just a cute little story about old evil men who kill people, or evil man and evil woman who like to murder people who end up falling in love because they love doing it. And it's just like a kind of kooky little story with like cutesy art. Jin No Chaser. This one's pretty cool. It's like very kind of Archie comics kind of style, which is pretty cool. It fits the story of like, I think it's a genie in a fucking lamp who is just a maniac and bullies them. And of course, it's also interspersed by stories of Harlan Ellison himself that have just been illustrated, which is really cool. Probably some of my favourite ones actually are the ones featuring Harlan and are actually just his stories and his words written and then made into a comic. I think it's a really genius idea. So I guess you can call him a comic book writer as well, and he's a really good one at that. And on top of just the comics, is actually just stories of Harlan Ellison as well, like Goodbye to All That, which is really good, and the iconic cover here of a guy kind of climbing up Everest to find McDonald's arches, which is really funny. It's just a really good collection of stories because Harlan Ellison's an amazing writer. If you like sci-fi, if you like speculative fiction, you need to check him out because he's just like one of the GOATs. He was one of the GOATs, and I feel his name is slipping more and more into obscurity, and it really should not. And it really shouldn't. And if it's easier for you to read a comic than read Dream Corridor, for the love of God, it's just an amazing fucking thing. Again, I picked this up out of a gosh darn antique shop. This was $20. I picked this up for a tenner for this absolute sucker, Rooney. It was a man himself. Genius, absolute genius. One of my inspirations when it comes to writing and just ideas in general. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty interesting one to end off with. Harlan Ellison's Dream Corridor. Don't know which one it is. Which annoys me to this day. Volume 2, there you go, it said it in there. So this is the last one. I did 2, this is the second one. I want the first one because it's got a comic adaptation of I Have No Mouth and I Was Screaming It. Maybe, I don't know what other ones it's got, but yeah, it's just fucking cool. It's just a great idea. I think he should do more of this. I think Harlan was a massive comic book aficionado anyway, so I think the idea of having an author adapt their stories into comic books is really cool. I think H.P. Lovecraft, not obviously when he was alive, but they've done some stories with him like that. But this should be more of a thing, especially with Harlan's stories because they kick ass. Harlan Ellison's Dream Corridor, Dark Horse Comics, really, really cool. And yes, I'm going to stop now because I've whittled on for too long. Thank you very much for joining me on this installment of Kllection. Oh yeah, I hope you're enjoying the new titles, intro and outro. I've kind of changed up the vibe and the aesthetic of the Kllection channel a little bit. I'm pretty happy with this new direction. Let me know what you think as well. I'm kind of moving away from the TV aspect and just straight cool vaporwavy kind of aesthetics and VHS cool stuff, messing around with After Effects. Anyway, yeah, some of the comic book volumes that I own. Have you read any of these? Would you like to? Do you like them? Do you hate them? What do you think of them? Let me know in the comments below. I read all of them. More content soon coming, kiddies. Please stay tuned. I'm still working on scripts and stuff. I'm not gonna blabber on about that. I'm just gonna shut up and yeah.